Welcome to Weed Wednesdays, produced by International Broadcast Media, better known as IBM.TV. I'm your host, Jeff Eichen, human rights advocate and social activist fighting for government deregulation of weed and the release of all nonviolent criminals incarcerated for possession of marijuana, moving violations, parking tickets, IRS debt, etc. Here on WEEDsday, we keep the public informed about all things weed related, including festivals and legislation surrounding regulating the growth of hemp. Today, my guests are...
There's something happening here. There's something happening here.
So much for making it to the hump day, but we changed it to hemp day. So today on WEEDsday, your host Jeff Eichen with our co-host today, rotating co-host Stephanie Landa, former POW, and we're so honored today to have a special guest today, a former POW himself, Craig Cecil. Yay, everybody! So we're so excited here.
Yay.
And to begin our show today, I would like to honor my dear brother and close friend, Brian McKinney. He left his earthly body last evening. Here's my offering. Please take this moment to remember all loved ones and here and gone. And may no POWs die in prison. We're coming for you. So listen to this. It's only a minute 39. Here we go.
Message for Brian from Jeffrey. Thanks for all the good times, for being brave, being my buddy, my bro. Love you so much. Happy trails. See you on the other side. It's been a great ride, Brian. Love you so much. Can't wait to see you in Dreamland. Good job.
So that was for my dear friend, high school buddy, and that was Brian. And so, as we all know, as we get older, we lose buddies, we lose friends, we lose family members, and even Kristen Floor could not come on today. Her father was lost in prison, still in shackles. So how dare anybody tell me that things are progressing on this stage, but we do. We're supposed to have Glenn on today to tell us his verdict of his movement that he had, and this week on the 29th on Monday, he totally had a decision, and he had to take a plea, and blah 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 and blah blah blah. We know that we are the choir, we sing loud. We still have people inside I advocate for Michael Thompson. He's been in for 25 years. And for God's sakes, they're really incredible soft souls that are surrounded by hardened criminals. And it's time to end prohibition globally. Paper, fiber, fuel, food, and everything. I mean, hemp toilet paper. The plan is a plan, and alcohol is legal. We want to welcome today. I was told from Beth Curtis, Craig, to say hi. She sends her love to you. And so let's get it on now and welcome everybody. Welcome, Stephanie. Do you have your video camera, Stephanie?
No, I do now.
Okay, there you are. Okay, so Stephanie's our co-host today. Thank you so much. And at the count of 3, that's all. Welcome Craig home. Craig Cecil was in jail, and he'll tell us his story. Woo! We're so excited
Thank you.
to have you. 3 is for you, man. That's the weed sign. And we're so excited. Craig, tell us a little bit about your story. How long were you in, and what was the we'll get to the emotional side of things about how it feels to be home and all those kinds of things. But how many signatures did you get, and what did it take to bring you home?
Oh, well,
How long were you in first? How long were you in?
I have been in since 2002, so been over 18 years. And this is my first offense. I was convicted of conspiring to distribute marijuana and sentenced to life imprisonment. And now the life imprisonment was changed to 30 years. And in light of the recent changes in the law, specifically the CARES Act, which President Trump signed on March 27th, allowed the Bureau of Prisons to send people that were especially vulnerable to the COVID pandemic. It allowed them to send the people home to home confinement for the whole rest of their sentence. So my sentence does not actually expire until 2028. And I am actually still a marijuana POW, but the scenery is a heck of a lot better here near Chicago than it was in the prison. I'm in home confinement. I'm at my daughter's house, and I got home just days before Father's Day. So we got to spend the first Father's Day together in 19 years. But what had happened is when the new law passed, the Bureau of Prisons had to search their records and determine who might be a good candidate for the release to home confinement. People that had no history of violence, people that had served a bunch of time, people that had no likelihood of recidivating or committing a new crime. And I came up on that list, and that list was sent to the prison where I was in Terre Haute, Indiana. But the warden was very proud to announce that he had blocked it. He didn't think anybody should go home to home confinement. You're a prisoner, stay in prison. Well, in response to that, a bunch of people led by Sherry Sicard, led by Freedom Grow, led by so many different groups, sent heads of letters to both the director of the Bureau of Prisons and to the Attorney General. And this was all really in pretty short order, because 2 weeks later, the warden came to me with his chin on his chest. He was no longer so proud. And he said that he was ordered by Washington, D.C. to reconsider his refusal to send me home. And within days, I was in quarantine, getting ready to come home. I left the prison on June 16th.
And tell us, when I talked to Tommy Chong, not about you, but when I was making my movie Lifers Madness, which the poster is behind me there, I was working with Jeff Mazansky. We didn't bring him on today. He was busy, but we will totally have him on shortly. And Jeff Mazansky was, Tommy Chong during that time when I was dealing with Jeff, told us that it was spiritual when he was in prison. That's what survived him. That's what got him through it. What allowed you to get through all these days in prison?
A determination to stay busy every day, and to, although I was in prison, to accomplish something every day. I got my certificate as a paralegal, and I wrote a lot of legal papers for guys, some of them which, as a result of my legal papers, have been sent home, and I got a lot of the regulations within the Bureau of Prisons changed. So that's what kept me busy, and that's what kept me hopeful, and that's what kept me, in court, against the warden, against the people that gave me a life sentence as a first-time marijuana offender. And I just stayed in the fight and stayed determined.
So how absurd that you were a first-time offender, and it was and you were, I mean, it's just amazing how things they're faking us out by saying we are we're progressing in 33 states being legal, and yet Glenn Keeling and Peggy Sue are looking at 50 years.
Well, I was arrested shortly before and then shortly after the events of September 11th. And there was a big narrative going on at the time because a bunch of my co-defendants were from Mexico. There was a big, a theory going around at the time that drug dealers financed terrorism. And that was in the middle of the big terror scare following September 11th. So that contributed greatly to my sentence, in that I was grouped right in with Osama bin Laden. And when they calculated my guidelines, they just piled all kinds of things on that you wouldn't even consider.
Stephanie, do you have anything to add and to ask Craig? This is our day of freedom on our WEEDsday show. We have some really beautiful people here to meet and to greet Craig Cecil. That's basically what today is about. I have a little bit of things. Let's welcome Craig Cecil home, and then also we want to hear from Glenn and Peggy. We'll see if they come on. I saw Paul Stanford in for a second. We have Dan Harrer, and that's Jack's son. And don't forget, it's like terror, Dan Harrer. And Stephanie, unmute yourself and say hello and tell us. Thank you for being co-host today.
Okay, great. So thank you, Jeff, for having me on again. I'm really excited to be on your show. And Craig, WEEDsday. I know when I got out, it was like, I went into a store and I couldn't even pick out the potato chips I wanted. It was just too much for me. I had to leave. And I did a lot less time than you did. So, of course, after the first day you're in prison, it's, life is different. The first time you get strip searched, life is different. So I'm really excited to see you. We sent you money for years, and we're really glad. And Freedom Grow Forever is just ecstatic that people are getting out. When Paul Free got out, I was like, oh my God, he got out. And now you're out, like people that I kind of thought, people that were my friends after this many years. So I'm excited to see you, Craig. Thank you for just forging on, always being on Joe's show. And Amy and I used to talk about you daily. Can Do is just, Amy's so ecstatic. She just keeps crying. So I am very excited for you, Craig, to start your new life, even if you are under the BOP.
Thank you. I actually haven't left the house yet. We drove straight from the prison to the halfway house to get some information. And then I've been required to stay home now. But shortly I'll be able to go out to some stores. But you'll be happy to know I walked out of the front door of the prison wearing the only pair of gym shoes I have, which were bought for me by Freedom Grow.
Oh, nice.
That money makes such a difference.
Yeah, it's definitely the little things. And when I was in prison, you have to have commissary. It's just a requirement. Otherwise, you're doing hard time. You're doing time that you shouldn't be doing in the first place. So it was my honor to be able to give you anything. So thank you for your service.
Well, thank you for, making it much easier than it could have otherwise been. That made such a big difference to me and to other people that I know you're continuing to help. That, as you well know, that makes a huge difference to be able to have a snack, to be able to put on some gym shoes and go outside, not in big leather boots made in China. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Well, as I said, it was my honor to do it. And I feel like it takes a village, there's a lot of people that help me now that are just, I couldn't do this without them. And I couldn't do it without donations.
Well, the other thing people ought to remember is the whole reason I left the prison is not because of a slick lawyer or because, anything like that. Even after I could leave on home confinement, the warden had turned it down. There was no leaving the prison for me. And the only reason that I did leave the prison is all those letters from all the activists, all those people that actually cared about somebody behind the razor wire, to email a message, to send letters to the warden, to send letters to the attorney general, to send letters to the Bureau of Prisons. That is 100% of the reason why I'm sitting in my daughter's home rather than sitting in the Terre Haute Penitentiary. That made all the difference.
I have a question for both of you. When are we going to make a handbook so we can send it and PDF it to all of our people so we can bring home more prisoners with the handbook on how you did it? Because it sounds like you have a formula. Let's do a handbook, Stephanie.
Everybody has a different set of facts. And mine, of course, were because I was vulnerable to the COVID. I'm over 60 years old. I'm diabetic. I, have lungs that reflect the fact that I smoked cigarettes for over 30 years. So that made me eligible for the home confinement. But it took the letters and the outspokenness of the advocates to push it over the top to actually get me out the front gate.
It gives us hope. No. It gives us hope when we do this that we're not doing the letters for nothing.
Well, I'm 200 pounds of proof that they work.
I know. That's
to be honest,
really great.
I had seen so many people that were promised the release to home confinement that didn't get it. Over 3,000 qualified. They've only released 200 and something of them. At the last moment, they'll tell you, I hope you don't qualify. So I didn't pack to leave until 4 o'clock in the morning on the day I was leaving. When I walked out of the front door of the prison, I seen my daughter, and all I did is yell at her, get the car. Don't do anything but the car. Let's get in the car and get away before they change their mind.
Exactly.
Freedom Grow, let's unmute yourself and say hello to Craig. Introduce yourself.
I am unmuted.
Hi, Craig. This is Amberly Taylor. I'm Thomas Landreth's daughter with Free Thomas Landreth and Taylor's boys. So nice to meet you. I got my Freedom Grow set on for you today.
I see, and thank you. I've seen your name in literature and all that before. It is an honor to meet you, especially this way.
I lit one for you since you're still on home confinement. I got one lit for you.
Thank you. Home confinement for 8 more years, the way it currently stands.
My dad is in a
frozen problem here.
And he's
there we
not
go.
on home confinement, but he's on parole, and he still has parole for 3 more years. And a lot of people don't understand that that's still very hard. Our revocation rate is extremely high in America. So blessings to you and stay free, sir.
Thank you. And I'm already learning some of the hurdles. I mean, the obvious initial hurdles were, who would think at 60 years old I walked out of the prison and I had no idea how to make a phone call? I mean, an iPhone it might as well have been, something from Mars to me. Yes.
When my dad was in prison, they were still using phone cards, like paper plastic phone cards. So when he got home, it was the same thing.
Put it this way, I got locked up, 5 years before Facebook. So
Yeah.
cell phones were just starting. That there was no such thing as one that did text or took pictures or computed anything.
Well, maybe now that we have you home, Craig, you can join the team to be a new poster child. And you know what my dream is? We don't have cruise ships anymore, but we do have places that we're gonna maybe do a retreat. We'll COVID ourselves, and we're gonna bring Dan Harrer on now. Maybe Dan wants to be part of this also, and we can have a reunion with all of our freed prisoners. I just invented that. I just designed that up. Dan, give a shout to Craig.
Hello, Craig. Welcome back to Crazy.
Thank you. This crazy is a heck of a lot better than the crazy behind the wall. I can tell you that,
Brother. I am sure of that. But I'm sorry for what you've had to go through. But I'm so glad and that you're out and that you get to come back to your life, come back to to something that you can make better than you ever thought. And I hope the next few months and the next few years gives you the opportunity to really excel in your wishes and the things that you've held close to you that helped you to survive the difficulties of their circumstances over the last 30 years.
But thank you. And as I spent most of my time in prison trying to make a change, trying to make a difference, I'm going to be actively pursuing that. Our federal marijuana laws need to go, to top to bottom. They just need to disappear. And our prisons need somebody to look into them and make them humane. There's so many things that are wrong in our prisons. And as I see, the war on drugs needs to be over once and for all. It was
the war on people.
The war on people, yes, for sure. For sure. Well, Dan, can you tell us a little bit about your own legacy? Share why this means so much to you.
Well, my legacy is grown through my father, who, when he understood at the age of 30 how wrong this government was for allowing prohibition to alter people's lives, for allowing it to exist to where it could take people's lives, freedoms, homes, property. He felt that his life would be dedicated to the freedom of the information that would free individuals and people, not just here in the United States, but around the world, from this heinous law that had been imposed on people because of fear of a plant, and not just fear of a plant, but fear of what that plant could provide, and to hide this war on drugs based on all of the lies that it took to make cannabis illegal in order to implement how to control people, individuals, ideas, politics, and how to create and maintain a narrative of fear and the need for incarceration of folks like Stephanie, folks like Craig, that it is just unimaginable that we would intentionally destroy folks' lives on lies, things that we know that are provable today that were all lies back when cannabis became illegal, and that those lies morphed into how do we control people's ability to vote, how do we suppress ideas, informations, products, and true change around the globe. And that it's just unimaginable to me that so many lives have been and continue to be absolutely obliterated by governments, be it city, state, county, or federal, on behalf of these lies, just to protect absolutely fucking nothing. Because all of these things will fall and the truth will always come out. And unfortunately, it takes far too long for those to be realized. And I'm grateful for the freedom that you both now have, or quasi freedom, depending on the stay of your in-house situation. But I would imagine this is just another step to both of to all of your futures.
Well,
and
since
my father spent his life trying to change the world, and unfortunately it's not changing fast enough to give back so much of their time.
Let this moment.
Jack was a really good friend of mine.
Can I jump in for a second too? And Jack was a good friend of mine as well. The thing that amazes me, and welcome back, Craig, by the way, to whatever semblance of normalcy you have.
Wait. What's your name?
You picked a weird time to be released, I gotta tell you.
What's your name?
This is Chris Conrad. I've been involved with
Hi,
this
Chris.
Hi, Steph Landa. Good to see you again.
Yes, I love you.
I think one of the things that really impressed me is that when I first got involved with it 30 years ago, I thought nobody was getting arrested for marijuana. I didn't know anybody who was arrested for marijuana. Anybody who had been arrested just got released right away, no big deal. And so once I started getting involved in the issue, that's when I started finding out that there really were people getting arrested. They're just people I didn't know. And so likewise, when Mickey Norris and I moved on with Virginia Resner to start the Human Rights in the Drug War Project in the mid-90s, we found that a lot of the people that we found out had been busted, their families did not tell anybody they were busted. They said they were gone on a holiday or that they were on vacation somewhere, they left town. They had all these reasons why the people weren't there. And so trying to do prisoner outreach was actually difficult. And then after we passed Prop 215, we have somebody like Dennis Perone telling everybody it's all legal now, blah, blah, blah. And Steph Landa knows as well as I do, it didn't really play out that way after we passed Prop 215. I worked on 2,500 cases myself. That was just, probably less than 10% of the cases that were out there in the state during that time period. And mostly white people, I'd have to say. Even though most of the people getting busted were black, most of the clients I worked with were white. And so, and another part of this too, I would go on, is that when we were trying to organize within the African-American community in the 1990s, we got a lot of pushback, primarily from the African-American churches who were like, these drugs are destroying our communities. And it wasn't until 10 or 15 years later that they were able to see it wasn't the drugs, it was the penalties that were destroying the communities. And now they started to come on board as part of their broader understanding. But a lot of the problems that we've had actually kind of go to the fact that the churches all signed in for this, signed in for this notion that that the drug war is helping their communities. And so I don't know if you encountered this, Craig or Stephanie, about when people get busted, their friends disappear, the support network disappears, their family kind of denies almost that they exist and so forth. And this is a very heavy obstacle in addition to all the other barriers people are dealing with. And it's just now that people are starting to, we're getting projects like Stephanie's and others that are talking about, this prisoner issue, that people are really waking up to the fact that this is not, it's not nobody getting busted. Real people are getting busted all over the place, and it's having real serious consequences. I'm going to silence myself before my phone rings again.
Chris, do you want to share with us about your famous project that inspired me to get into the choir and start singing?
And helped Amy get out.
Yeah, well, the Human Rights in the Drug War Project, it actually started off, we had a project called Cannabis Prisoners of Conscience. or consciousness. We used it conscience because we felt that our conscience was bothering us about people being in prison. And then so we were doing that in the early 90s. We were talking mainly about statistics and a couple of cases that we knew about. But in 95, we met Virginia Resner with Families Against Mandatory Minimums and decided we wanted to do a project that really showed the faces of the prisoners. And it kind of started with a fax that came to Cannabis Action Network, and they gave to my wife, Nikki Norris, and they said, we don't know what to do. It's a picture of this 3 little girls, and it says, can you help me there? They've arrested my children, they're making prisoners of my grandchildren, and there's no one who can help me. And will you help? And so we didn't know what to do to help, so we decided what we need to do is just bring attention to it. And so we started with an exhibition in 95, and then in 98, we started traveling around the country with that and around the world. And then in 98, we had the booklet, the book which you have right there, Shattered Lives, Portraits from America's Drug War. And I think that happened before you got arrested, Stephanie, right? We had 3 prisoners on the cover. Just a side point to mention, of the 3 prisoners on the cover, the 2 white prisoners got out something like 15 years earlier than the 1 black prisoner was able to. Will Foster, he got released in around 2000. Amy got released around 2000. But Kendra Smith, I think, is in the middle there. She was still in prison until fairly recently. In fact, Stephanie might be able to tell you when. This is a project that was very important. And thank heavens for groups like Stephanie's organization and what Steve is doing over there, and Amy and these other projects, because frankly, it's very hard on people when you're getting all these desperate phone calls and people, they have nowhere else to turn. You know, you think, well, you must have someplace else to turn, and you realize they really don't. They're counting on people like us. And so I'm saying to everybody who's listening right now, they're counting on you. People like Craig are counting on you to get involved and do something about it. So, you know, face it, it's time to start getting active.
Can I jump in while we're on topic? Because I actually kind of had my topic towards kind of what he's speaking about. There is quite a bit of racism within the cannabis community that I didn't even notice until the Black Lives Matter movement reignited recently. And I want to remind people that African-American males consist of 34% of the total prison population in America, and 39% of America's prison population is for non-violent offenders like drug offenders and weed charges. And the 13th Amendment only worded slavery to include a prison system as the slave master. It never took slavery out. The words from the 13th Amendment says that slavery is abolished except for punishment for a crime. So slavery is still very well alive and well, and it's in the cannabis community as well. And we don't realize that there's still people getting locked up for weed. There's still people who have tickets and payments just like me who are paying for weed charges, and a lot of them are African Americans in the community.
It is very one-sided, and we're very proud that you brought that up. The BLM issue is huge right now, and we have to definitely be mindful of the Jim Crow era. You know, that's one of the movies I want to do. I want to get Spike Lee and tell their story. But right now, to be focused and to get all of our prisoners home, so they don't die in prison. And so we're not hypocritical about all the states and the money that's being made. And to get me back into interview more people and to do the next episode of helping to undo this globally. I'm so blessed that we're getting some freedom right now. We have Craig. Did we lose Craig?
Nope, I'm still here.
Oh, there you are. You're on my other screen. Okay, great. So thank heavens we have people coming home and with compassion and release and everything. But we have to really keep our focus, everybody. I know that we have COVID, and I know that we have BLM, and I know that there's a separate, there's a division bell like the Pink Floyd album. There's a bell that rings every time we're separated. When somebody goes in jail or somebody still goes in jail. Glenn was supposed to be on today, Glenn and Peggy, and God bless them. Let's hopefully they get a nullification. But the bottom line is that this madness has got to stop. And I think with our voices together, we can unite and get louder. This show is on IBM.TV, and it's going global. So hello, Portugal and Uruguay. Good job with teaching the world that it can be done. And let's do more of it. Let's grow. Let's have hemp fields so we can make plastic. BMW makes a car with hemp seats and with plastic in their car parts, and we can make hempcrete. We can build homes with them. My father would have loved that. And we need toilet paper to cut no more trees out of hemp. So it's time. It's like really, really beautiful time. And we have Randy. Can you unmute yourself, Randy, and share who you are and your legacy? Hi, Randy. Unmute yourself, Randy. There you go.
There you go. Yeah. Hello, I'm Randy Lanier. Nice to meet everyone. Hello, Craig.
Hi, Randy.
Hello, Randy.
Hey, Stephanie. So life is good. I spent 3 decades, 27 years in maximum security penitentiaries throughout the United States for marijuana. And I'm out here enjoying life and living the life of freedom.
I partially feel like I know you. On my bulletin board in the cell was a bunch of the activists you and I both know, including Stephanie, carrying free Craig Cecil signs, free Randy Lanier signs, and the like. And so I've actually met a lot of people that walked in my cell, seen your sign up there. I've met a lot of people that know you and speak very highly of you.
Thank you, Craig. Well, at past, maybe crossed. We didn't meet in the joint, but I'm happy to meet you out here and glad you gained your freedom.
Thank you. Thank you.
Welcome home. Welcome home, Randy. Welcome home, Craig. And today's honest to God, I'm gonna give you everybody a pinky. Hold your pinky up. We're gonna pull it really hard, and we're gonna do a reunion with all the freedom fighters and the people that got you home. And I'll do an episode or a small film about that, so we can share that with the world. Listen up, world, right now. This is global and local, and don't settle for in your lifetime. If you saw my beginning of my show today, everybody, I lost a buddy last night. He left his body, and he had liver and kidney failure, and the liver doctor said he's not sick enough, and the kidney doctor said he's too sick, and they were fighting against each other. And my buddy lost his leg, and he said, I'm going to get a new leg, Jeffrey, and come up and go fishing with you in Washington State. You wait and see. And he got tired and left his body yesterday. So everybody, be thankful that we're together. And in this lifetime, let's end prohibition. Let's make marijuana legal again so my people can come home and get a job and have no record.
One team, one dream. One team, one dream.
Thank
and
you.
That brings up the question about healthcare in prisons and how bad it is. We've got like 1,000 COVID-19 cases, or Trump flu cases, I like to call it, in right here at the San Francisco prison out here. So things are pretty bad. Jeffrey, also this part of the extension of prohibition beyond the prison walls. At least one of my friends actually died because he needed a liver transplant, and they rejected him because he had cannabis in his system before when they were screening him for it. And then actually they told him initially that it wouldn't matter, but then when they found it, he was thrown off the list because of I think it was, is that federal or state? Do you know, Stephanie, who runs
Federal.
Yeah, and so he lost his ability to get that.
The feds have got to get it that it's medicine. I mean, that it's a plant and it's organic, and we have to get louder, everybody. We have to use our ability to have shows like this. I'm nobody special. I just want to not go to my grave with marijuana still being illegal and with any prisoners in jail. I want to make that my bottom line. And I don't care if you're Bill Maher or if you're this or that. Bring me on. Let's all go on and let's share this show today that we mean business.
You know, Craig, I was really impressed when I saw your Facebook page, your family, the Happy Father's Day and welcome you home. And I was just wondering, of the three people who are inmates at one point, if you could talk a little bit about how hard it is to keep your family ties when you're dealing with that prison situation. I haven't been through that, but it seems like I've seen couples get divorced. In fact, I won't go any further with that. I've seen couples divorced. We've seen all sorts of problems, kids growing up alienated from their parents and actually angry with them because the parents in prison and stuff. And so maybe you guys could talk a little bit about that whole thing of trying to hold a family together.
Prison, of course, makes it difficult when the telephones are not easy. You can't just make a call whenever you feel like it. You have to wait to express times. You stand in line, you get on the phone for your 15 minutes, and you wait until you have enough minutes, of your monthly limit to call again. And then unfortunately, prisons are plagued with lockdowns. So you may be locked down for a week, 2 weeks, sometimes 2 months, where you're not able to call at all. And, you write letters, you don't know, if people are actually getting them. The prison mail system seems to lose a lot of mail, both ingoing and outgoing. I'm sure Randy can vouch for a lot of those frustrations.
It takes me 2.5 hours of work for my husband to call home for 10 minutes. That's how expensive a prison phone call is. And I'm a prison daughter, and I understand how hard it is to stay in contact with your dad, because many times I gave up fighting for him, but I had my team of freedom fighters behind me when it got too rough for me. The people behind you is like everything.
We love you dearly, everybody. We're really blessed to grow our freedom. People that are coming out. We're gonna really advocate for the people that are still in. There's Michael Thompson, everybody. I flew to Missouri, to Michigan to see Michael, and we've got his paperwork in, and it's just on January 1 this year, 2020, see 2020, everybody. I said hypocrisy is my new word, because 33 states, medicine, CBD oil, all the stuff, and the money that it bounces budgets in Colorado, Washington, and Oregon, and other states. Let's hold hands. Let's utilize both you, Randy, and Craig, as new poster children. I will help. I'll interview you guys till you can't be interviewed anymore, till you wanted me to leave, and we'll share your stories in a way that maybe we will get Bill Maher, maybe we'll get some other ways to get out there even bigger, and let's come up with a division plan to undivide us all, because pot needs to be legal.
So we sent Michael Thompson money just like a week ago or so, and it says that he can't receive money anymore. So I was just wondering if anyone knew anything.
I think that's Dee Dee. Dee Dee Kirkwood would know most of anything. So
No, that's who said it.
Oh,
I send her money for Michael, and she puts it on his book. So she's the one that said it.
Why would they not? Why would they change things?
The prisons do whatever they want to do. The prisons don't have any rules.
Yeah, because they moved you without telling family members. My dad had a whole brain surgery without me even being contacted until after the fact. Like, they do whatever they want to do. So he's probably being moved, but hopefully it's home confinement. Maybe he's being released. Maybe we should put those good vibes out there.
Yeah.
Well, that's what we want for Glenn and for Peggy. I mean, Glenn has 45% lung capacity, he told me last week, and he's going into COVID prison. I mean, what is dumb? What is stupid about the planet Earth right now? Let's not talk about climate change. Let's talk about climate change in the prisons, and don't send somebody in there that is 45% lung.
The reason that people take pleas is because you are threatened when you're in prison and when you're going to court. And everybody says, the DA, they tell you you're going to get 25 years, and they make you take a plea. I took a plea. It doesn't mean that you're a snitch or anything. It means that you don't want to go away for life for 20 years. And it's very unfair that if you take things to trial, they give you more time.
And that's what happened to my dad.
Yeah, and that's why people take deals.
And they do these whole packages where everybody has to agree to the same deal, and then of course some people
like in my case.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And often it's the wife doesn't get charged if the husband takes a longer sentence or something like that. Right. So there's different.
That's what like Peggy Sue. That's what Peggy Sue is going through right now. Their plea deal consists of him doing the time, so she doesn't. And I don't think you should have to like choose between protecting your family and going to prison for something that's a bad law anyway.
And facing a trial rather than having to take the deal because otherwise the other person won't get their deal.
Yeah, then that drains your funds. Like you said, it separates family members. My husband is revocated for parole violations for things like being late on his fees, like being 2 hours late to a class every year. And they still have 3 more years of this. And the same thing with my dad. Like any move you make, they can put you back in prison. And it's like they have that as a safety net. They make you take those pleas so they have that hold on you and that catch on you so you're always underneath them.
One thing people really need to do right now is to remember that what's going on right now is entirely the fault of one person. His name is Mitch McConnell. More than 80 bills have been passed out of the House of Representatives since the Democrats took control and promised to legalize marijuana, and none of them has been heard in the Senate as a result of Mitch McConnell specifically. So one thing everybody should be doing right now is working to get rid of him as the chairman of the Senate. He has been the obstacle for the past at least 2 years. No question about it. Because Trump said that he would sign something, but he's not getting anything because Mitch McConnell is blocking every bill.
Where was Jeff Sessions in the game?
He's a nightmare. He tried so hard to get the drug war going again, didn't he, Stephanie? You saw he was like,
really?
But it just didn't catch hold.
God.
And Dan, unmute yourself, Dan, and join in again. We want to get you off your sleepy pod and come back in and give us a little bit of a family juice. You know, your dad was so excited about change. What's next for you? Where are you gonna chime in besides coming to our show every so often? We'd love having you.
You know, there's so much to do within the space of cannabis legalization, because I don't care whether you look at California or 30 some odd other states. You know, there's not one state that has legal cannabis, because everything that is that are cannabis laws or access are all still built on the same lies and falsehoods that created prohibition. So there's no such thing as legal cannabis. There's only, you know, state-sponsored extortion. And all of these things are all going back to, you know, if the war on drugs is over, then how do we keep all the people that were employed by the war on drugs employed? And you do that by not really changing how people are processed through the system, and by continuing to create laws against cannabis or its use or its transportation or its sale that continue to fill beds. And we really need, you know, right now we have thousands and thousands of companies across this United States that are putting in hundreds of millions and probably even approaching billions of dollars into infrastructure to sell cannabis nationally and globally. But they're not doing anything to educate people, to take the fear, to straighten out the truth, to actually, you know, allow people to have an understanding of what cannabis is and what hemp is, and all of the things that are continuously dividing us amongst ourselves with regards to how we exist in this new space of access, how we are able to build businesses, what laws are put in place in order to regulate us. All of these things are moot if you don't change the basic understanding of what this plant is within the community that allows you know, the sale and distribution of it. If everything is still about the lies, then none of the things that are happening with regards to allowing people to come out of prison, because if cannabis is still so fearful that it can't be within 500 feet of a school, but a 7-Eleven that sells cigarettes and frickin' alcohol can be right directly across the street, then there's a fundamental understanding that is still false with how we look at cannabis and the continuance of the fear and propagation of that fear across the industry in order to put all of these extortionary taxes in place to make people feel better about what cannabis is and how dangerous it is. Well, you know, I still don't know one motherfucker who's ever died from cannabis, but you know, I can walk into a CVS with a, you know, if I had kids, I could walk up to the pharmacy window with my kid and go buy oxycodone or Vicodin or whatever. And there's no bars, there's no security stopping me from going in. There's no Tylenol store. There's no freaking Oxycontin store. There's a freaking pharmacy, you know?
Fuck opiates.
You know, so why do we have this separation still? Why do we have the separation still where we have, if you want cannabis, you've got to go to a dispensary because that's this place that's safe. And you, as long as it's over there, it's safe, but it can't come in to regular commerce because if it was in regular commerce, that means they'd have to tell the fucking truth about it.
I've had CPS at my house 3 times because I'm an activist for cannabis. Now I have my CPS lady's number saved in my phone. That's how many times she has been called because I'm a cannabis activist. And it's a shame that there is that much fear out there that I can't speak on other people's behalf and try to help their freedom without the fear from other people thinking that it's bad because I'm a mom and I'm a cannabis activist.
Well, look at Peggy Sue, who is one of her, you know, charges was child endangerment, and they're only up for 2 grams of tincture.
That's crazy. That's crazy. For one, that's kidnapping those children's parents. They're kidnapping their parents, and they're forcing them into slavery, basically.
But it doesn't even just limit it to officials. Like I was working here in California up until Prop 64 was passed in cases where child custody cases where parents who are divorcing were saying bad stuff about each other, even though they smoked marijuana together and grew marijuana together. And once they got into a custody fight, all of a sudden they're labeling each other bad because they used cannabis. And that wasn't the government. It wasn't until the initiative said that you can't use that to take away kids from parents that we got that saved. And I'm going to bring up something else that Dan just mentioned there about the shifting economics of it is what we've just seen on June the 1st in Washington, D.C., where in order for Trump to get his photo op, they brought the DEA out because the Washington, D.C. police would not break up that protest. So they brought the DEA and Blackwater, which is a mercenary group made up of former CIA rogue agents who formed this to try to screw up the American government under Carter. That's the people they brought in. And so you see that, you know, the money that Dan was saying, in a way we need to dismantle that structure of economic dependence upon locking people up before we can get rid of the underlying pollution. Although it's kind of has to be simultaneously. We need to get rid of the stigma to get rid of the laws, and we need to get rid of the laws to get rid of the stigma.
And it's just amazing that these hundreds of millions of dollars that are put into infrastructure to build cannabis businesses, and nobody's putting that money into changing the understanding in those communities. So when they come in there, that their pathway is based on truth and facts and reality and about lifting communities up. But instead, their only thing is how much volume of dollars can be sold in cannabis, and it's not even about how much money they make, because you know a lot of these companies that are coming into cannabis, they're banking on the overall gross product sold to valuate a company so they can sell off the company and let it go. And what that does is it creates a falsehood of what cannabis is, and that all of this money that comes into cannabis somehow goes into cannabis manufacturers or producers' pockets. It doesn't. All of the money that goes into cannabis through sales, most of that ends up in cities, counties, states, and the federal government, who is now taking cannabis tax dollars, whether they want to admit it or not.
I've never seen a dispensary donate to Freedom Funds. I've never seen a dispensary donate. All the millions they're making off of marijuana, I have never personally seen a dispensary donate to give our prisoners free.
I have.
Steve D'Angelo.
The reality is, in defense of dispensaries and other cannabis businesses, we are fighting so fucking hard because we're so goddamn we're not using our voices, and we're fighting so hard just to survive in this cannabis extortion period that we don't have. There's no extra money. I mean, most stores that I know are not paying their bills on time. Things are going lapse because they have to make that tax payment to the state, because if they're 1 minute late, one day late on cannabis tax payment, they get a 50% addition penalty for being late on their payments.
That's
it is absolutely absurd that we're
This was a
working on
quick
such
hour.
thin margins that there's almost no money. Not to say that there isn't, and that they should, because they should be donating.
You're
They
right.
should be participating in this community in any and every way, whether it's free medicine, whether it's helping people that are in.
I've seen that. I've seen free medicine. I've seen stuff like that. But I'm talking about actual prison reform. That's what I'm talking about. I have not seen any big dispensaries. And I'm not talking about mom and pop dispensaries. I'm talking about Live Well. I'm talking about Starbucks. I'm talking about big, huge corporations that have billions of dollars.
Agreed.
That should be contributing to this.
Agreed.
You know what? It's not about contributing to it. It's changing the motherfucking understanding of how this is perceived by the community at large. And that's where the money needs to go. Not into massive, 1,000 light grows and all of this. Now, all of that may be important for a business to survive, but in order for this to thrive and become something that we don't just survive in cannabis, that we can thrive in cannabis, we need to change the fundamental understanding in the community, so there is no fear, that there is no extortion, and we're allowed to produce a product, sell a product, profit from that product, and give back to the communities that gave us the ability to have this.
So how
to the people that have given their fucking lives for us to fucking be here. It makes me sick to my fucking stomach that I can sell a product right now in the state of California with my father's name on it. At the same time, there's motherfuckers still in jail.
Woo! Welcome home, Craig. Welcome home, Craig.
What the fuck?
Welcome home, Craig. We didn't forget you, Craig.
One thing that I've been kind of wondering about lately as well is, with all this recent awareness in criminal justice and the racial disparities within criminal justice, why is there not attention given to the fact that when they made marijuana illegal in 1937 under the Marijuana Tax Act, why did they call it marijuana? Why was it marijuana in my indictment? Where else was there any Spanish words in my indictment? It wasn't cannabis in my indictment. It was marijuana in my indictment. Those marijuana laws were targeted against a very specific group of people along the southern Texas border originally, and I mean it's a law that, I mean, was terrible in its inception. It's targeting a group of Latino people.
Well, when I interviewed Tommy Chong, he said that the French love their wine and the Latinos and the blacks love their pot. And so I'm really I'm blessed to have you all on board today. I'll get a final word from everybody, but I also want to say that my dream is to have a council of elders in the industry to figure this out, to make one legislation that can be done universally, and that we can agree on how to tax it, how to make it right, and how to carry on with re-legalizing marijuana in a way that it's not different in 33 states. And that's what confuses everything and makes the greed part of the COVID, part of the pandemic is the greed, because we're taught to be entrepreneurs, okay? But the hypocrisy is that, as you say, Dan, is that we're still greedy sons of bitches about our weed. And there's a lot of money to be made, but the big grows like in Las Vegas are going to bring it down to $3 a gram or 30 cents a gram. And then all of the beautiful winemakers and the beautiful weed growers in Northern California that are doing beautiful weed in small grows, they're done for. They can't have their, like small breweries have beautiful handmade beers and they get more money for it. But we have to really step up as elders to have one legislation and come together on that so we can end prohibition. All I can say is that for me, everybody, I follow the gay marriage to the top of the hill. They went into the Supreme Court and they became legal. Let's work on that, everybody. Any final words from, let's start with you, Amber. Final words?
I was just honored to be on here with y'all. Everybody on here was just really great. Y'all check me out at Taylor's Voice Incorporated on Facebook, Kimberly R. Taylor. And it was just very nice to meet y'all. Freedom. Welcome home, y'all.
Okay. Chris, tell us where people can find you and any final words. You're muted.
Got it. I mentioned that Steph Landa and I were on this Earth Dance program. Is that earthdance.org that you go to? People can hear that show.
Yeah.
It was anyway, if you go ahead and look up there, you can find us on there to discuss more about that. I think that one of the things that you were talking about with the courts, though, is that the courts have never been helpful to us on this issue. We have very few rulings that are beneficial to us on this. So we have to work with activism and through the process and so forth. So I just encourage people to keep busy. I know we don't have time. There's a million things to say. So I just say thanks for this opportunity to be here. I appreciate all the panelists. And I hope every listener out there really decides to make that commitment and become active and work for justice.
Where can people find you, Chris?
ChrisConrad.com, theleafonline.com, or cantheism.org if you're interested in the spiritual uses of cannabis.
Thanks for all you do and for your dedication. Dan, any final words and where can they find you?
Well, one, I'm humbled to be on this program with you all. As sad as things have been, I'm grateful that you are out and that hopefully we can continue to get everyone out and reverse this horrible thing that has been inflicted upon not only us folks here in America but around the world on this great falsehood, and and really a hoax of a situation that we all find ourselves in. And as far as anything else, please continue to reach out, help people find their voices. Let the truth about cannabis come out. And the change will happen as long as we don't stay silent. Eventually, this will become reality, and that will be the truth of cannabis. And you can find me at jackhowerfoundation.org. And many blessings to you all, and may you have amazing lives ahead of you.
Thank you for being a good son and following in Dad's legacy. My father is right here. That's a photograph of my father there. And so I keep him with me also every day. And bless you, Dan, for your continual efforts and your beautiful words. We'll have you on again. Chris will have you on again. Stephanie for sure. And Amber for sure. Our honoree of the day is Craig Cecil. Welcome home after all these years. And yeah, welcome home, everybody. And we're so proud of you. And the journey begins. What's your ankle bracelet? How far can you leave your house before it starts beeping and you go down to the ground or something? What's going on?
Well, for now, I'm just limited to basically stay at the house. Don't walk out to check the mail, I'm told. But soon I'll be able to go out to get passes to go to the store, to go to work, and and because I have 8 years of home confinement to do, which nobody has done before, they're still in the middle of writing rules and trying to see how things will go. So I'm kind of a guinea pig here.
Well, you are the poster child then. We love that, man. That it's way better for you to be where you are than prison.
Oh yes, I got out of bed. I didn't have to wait in line to go eat. I got out of bed, pet the cat, made coffee, sat down. I haven't been able to do that in over 18 years.
Bless you. Bless you
Many
so
blessings,
much.
brother.
Thank you.
Oh, welcome home, man. And where can people find you? Where can people find you? Do you have Facebook?
The easiest would be just my name, Craig Cecil at Gmail.
And what do you have
I'm
to
still
say?
in the middle of putting everything together.
And Craig, what do you have to say to your brothers and sisters still behind bars?
We're coming for you because I'm out here outside the razor wire because of the actions of many advocates. I'm not one of those advocates. I'm going to be writing those letters. I'm already trying to put together contacts in Washington, D.C. I'm one of the fighters, and we're going to get him out. I left behind a cellie in his second year of his 18-year sentence for marijuana. We're going to get him out before the end of that.
Well, team, let's have a reunion. Let's work on bringing the rest of them home. And Craig, you are beautiful proof of a gentle soul that doesn't need to ever be around rapers and murderers. You know, they get 12, 14 years for murder. What the fuck? You know, sorry for my French, but everybody else is parlaying. And I wanna bake the marijuana brownies for everybody right now to have a party on the 4th of July. Come find me, everybody, at lifersandmovie.com. My movie's online now for free. And 4th of July,
and our website is freedomgrowforever.org.
Freedom Grow.
Like, share, comment, donate. Please donate. We support lives and please donate.
Okay, everybody, we're going to say goodbye today. Hemp Parade. Everybody give me a 3 and I'll do a screenshot. Everybody do 3. Give me a 3 for weed, everybody. 1. I'm going to do a screenshot. Dan, can you give me a 3 or are you gone? 1, 2, 3. Chris, 3. 3. 1, 2, 3. Here we go. Okay, thank you, everybody. Hemp Parade.
Yeah.
We'll see you next time. Okay, love you, everybody.
Many blessings, everybody.
Okay, blessings, Craig. We'll keep in touch. Welcome to Weed Wednesdays, produced by International Broadcast Media, better known as IBM.TV. I'm your host, Jeff Eichen, human rights advocate and social activist fighting for government deregulation of weed and the release of all nonviolent criminals incarcerated for possession of marijuana, moving violations, parking tickets, IRS debt, etc. Here on WEEDsday, we keep the public informed about all things weed related, including festivals and legislation surrounding regulating the growth of hemp. Today, my guests are...
There's something happening here. There's something happening